Every year, usually during our graduation ceremonies, UBC has the honor of bestowing honorary degrees upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence and eminence in their chosen field. Douglas Johnson exemplifies these characteristics, and it is our pleasure to grant him an honorary degree. Douglas Johnson is not only one of Canada's most accomplished rock musicians, he's also a gifted composer who's contributed to the artistic initiatives that promote environmental and humanitarian interests. He is best known as a founding member and keyboardist of Loverboy, one of the most successful groups in the history of Canada's recording industry, with multiple Juno Awards and global sales of over 15 million albums. He's also an accomplished jazz and classical pianist, equally at ease, playing the music of Oscar Peterson and Bill Evans, as works by Chopin and Beethoven. His lifelong humanitarian interests propelled his involvement in the famous 1985 Canadian charity single, Tears Are Not Enough, to support Ethiopian famine relief. He subsequently wrote and produced Action Speaks Louder Than Words in support of Food Banks Canada. As a prolific composer of soundtracks for documentary films and television, he has focused primarily upon productions concerning Indigenous peoples and environmental sustainability, including the critically acclaimed APTN series Native Planet and Power to the People. He also composed the soundtrack for the feature-length documentary River Blue, a groundbreaking film that garnered numerous festival awards in 2017 for its critical examination of the global garment industry and its impact on population health in Asia. As a volunteer, he's well known in the Surrey White Rock region, where he makes his home and where he lends time and financial support to numerous charities, including youth choirs and music education for underprivileged children. Extraordinarily, prior to the pandemic, he performed over 60 shows a year with Loverboy, which in 2009 was inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. In recognition of a long and eclectic career in music, and for his contributions to humanitarian and community service, we are pleased to confer the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, upon Douglas Leonard Johnson. It now gives me great pleasure to ask Dr. Johnson to say a few words.
Greetings to Chancellor Point, Professor Ono, graduating students, faculty members, and fellow UBC alumni. It is an enormous and quite unexpected honor to be included in this year's list of honorary doctorate recipients. Although I've always been a legend in my own mind, I never believed for a moment that anyone would ever think that I was deserving of an honor of this magnitude. In truth, however, I have an inkling of what is required to earn an academic degree. Both my brother and his wife have master's degrees from UBC, and although my life took a very different path, I was witness to their years of endeavor in earning their distinctions. With that as context, I want to begin by congratulating all graduating students with whom I am deeply honored to join as members of the UBC alumni community. Looking back over the years, I have been incredibly lucky to have experienced a generous measure of success in the pop rock music genre, particularly during the heady era of the 1980s. Upon reflection, I would attribute a great deal of that success to having a thorough musical education. My creative contribution to the Loverboy sound was informed by my studies of everyone from Bach to Oscar Peterson to Philip Glass. And that same knowledge has also informed the sense and music of my second career as a soundtrack composer. It bears repeating that learning is important and it never ends. Interestingly, when asked why he continued to play Bach suites on a daily basis when he was well into his 90s, the great cellist Pablo Casals famously responded, "Because I think I'm making progress." On that note, no pun intended, I will always be grateful to my teachers, My teachers often became my heroes, each in their own way. They were not only great musicians themselves, but were good, honest, hardworking people who instilled in me the values of tenacity, self-reliance, and a moral code, which I live by to this day. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and we are thankful. And speaking of those who came before us, I recently read about a Paleolithic excavation in Germany. During the excavation, a pentatonic flute was discovered, one that was made from vulture bones and is estimated to be around 35,000 years old. I was struck by how extraordinary it was for anthropologists to have discovered and identified any human-made object from a time when mastodons roamed the earth, let alone something that clearly appears to have been a musical instrument. What this discovery suggests is that we may be hardwired to respond to those ethereal fluctuations in audio waves and patterns that lie therein. It also reveals the inherent human will to innovate. Can any of us begin to imagine the trial and error required to determine the proper length of this primitive flute and exactly how far apart to space the finger holes in order to create a pentatonic scale? Music is a unique and yet universal language. It's hard to imagine a world without music, and I, for one, am eternally grateful to live in a time where I can be gainfully employed as a musician rather than a hunter of mastodons. And like all UBC alumni who have excelled in various endeavors, I salute the innovators of our respective professions. Innovators who may not necessarily have cried eureka, but who nonetheless made important contributions to the vast and cumulative body of knowledge that exists in our world today. And now to you, the class of 2020. I have nothing but the deepest respect for you for successfully completing your UBC degree requirements, and I am thrilled to take part in your celebration. Looking ahead, I encourage you to be fearless, disciplined, playful, and committed in order to reach your potential. There is a remarkable little book entitled The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I'd highly recommend it to any creative person, musician or otherwise, who is undertaking the transition to a professional life. Pressfield identifies something called, quite simply, quote unquote, resistance. Resistance, he writes, can be sneaky and pernicious, especially when it comes from within. The only antidote to resistance is action, showing up and being fully present in your task no matter what your state of mind is. Practicing is action. It is hard and lonely and sometimes seems to bear no improvement, but our persistence flies in the face of resistance. Setting aside a few hours a day to create new work is also an action that defies resistance. Perhaps 35,000 years ago, after a grueling hunting expedition, instead of kicking back on his bare cave rug, our Paleolithic friend decided to go and inspect a pile of bones to see which one would make the most excellent pentatonic flute. I think it's safe to say that even back then, they were dealing with resistance. It never lets up, hence, neither do we, neither can we. Success in music isn't necessarily about how many records you've sold or how many Twitter followers you have. To me, it is about taking ownership of your own musical voice and staying true to your values of originality and education. It's the ability to navigate through the turbulence of self-reliance and being a team player. Ultimately, my wish for all of you is to find success and fulfillment, and to find your own voice and your own rhythm and harmony in your chosen endeavors, and to not feel bad about taking down the odd mastodon. To the University of British Columbia, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for this honor and for welcoming me to the UBC alumni community. Thank you.